Welcome to Anchored at Harbor Park CrossFit, a show dedicated to helping you find enrichment for the other 23 hours of your day outside of the gym. Here's your hosts, Jason, Dave, and Corian.
Welcome, boys and girls, to another episode of Anchored at Harbor Park.
Yay!
I believe Dave has our icebreaker today.
I do. So today's icebreaker I felt was customary with Mother's Day. So happy Mother's Day to all the people listening out there, even though you'll be listening after Mother's Day, but we're shooting on Mother's Day. So with that being said, my icebreaker is to Corian and Jason. What is your best memory of your mother? Jason, we'll start with you.
Boy. I need time to think about that.
Yeah, there's so many.
Just pick one. Corian, you have one?
No, I'm running through them. Can it be like, it's going to be like a concept of my memories?
Yes.
Okay, so like growing up, my mom was always doing fun things for me and my brother. So like she would come home on like Fridays from work, and then she would just be like, in the summer, she'd be, hey, who wants to go camping? And then she'd just like grab us up, we'd pack real quick, and we'd just go out to Bong, and she'd take like the neighborhood kids, or we just like, she's very spontaneous like that. So we would just like go camping, or like all of our birthday parties or Halloween, like my mom put like a lot of effort into all that stuff. Like my costumes were always homemade. They were never like store bought. And like she always did themed parties. And so she just kind of like, that's my favorite stuff about her, is she always did really fun things like that and always thought of me and my brother.
Nice, Jason.
Okay. I think my favorite one was back in high school. We had a little boys' night, had all the guys over. We were drinking a little bit too much. And two of my good friends got in a big argument to the point where my mom was sleeping upstairs. And this was probably like 11 p.m., so pretty late. And it was so loud, the argument, to the point where she woke up and came downstairs. And my two friends were like chasing each other around the basement, and she hopped on my one friend's back, trying to stop him. Keep in mind, he's like a 260-pound guy just running around.
And your mom probably weighs like 90 pounds, so
right. I'm sure I could think of more if I had more time, but that was a fun one.
All right.
So episode 10.
No, this is
11.
episode 11.
Oh boy.
So we're going to talk about getting out of your comfort zone, which I think a lot of people deal with.
I think that the biggest thing about getting out of your comfort zone is inherently we are a creature of habit, routine, comfortable settings, things like that. So anything that makes us uncomfortable, we avoid, which, I mean, understandably so. We're not sure if it's going to cause us pain or anxiety or anything like that. So some of the funnest things, though, is getting outside of that comfort zone. And it doesn't matter, I think, if it's the gym or your personal life or travel. One of the things that comes to mind is my mother. She doesn't like to get out of her comfort zone very much. But one of the biggest things she did in the last couple of years is my stepdad was doing a seminar for work out in New York, and he wanted her to fly out there and meet him so they could have the weekend in New York, because she'd never been out there, and she had swore she was never going to go to New York. She doesn't like big cities, she doesn't like big crowds. It was kind of winter time, so she's like, it's cold, like if I'm going to travel I want to go somewhere warm. Well, she ended up doing it and was like nervous the whole time, calling me, kind of freaking out. And then when she got there, she loved it. She walked around Times Square, they went and saw like the 9/11 memorial. She did all this stuff, and even though she might not want to go back, she's really happy that she did it. And now that has kind of like sparked her love to do other things. And I think they're going to travel the next couple of years and kind of see the country.
It's really interesting when you look at like the historical importance of the comfort zone. So like back in the day when we were tribes of people, like before the modern age, the comfort zone was like that's where you were safe and like you were with your group of people and you weren't worried about getting like hunted down from predators and all this stuff. Right. So our body, our mind is predisposed to get us to where we're comfortable. Because for the majority of humans, like duration, like life, not lifespan for a person, but like our population, or no, that's not right either. Our like the length that humans have been around, most of it has been in like the tribe setting. So we're predisposed to want to be in that safe area, but now that we're in the 21st century, that we're not worried about that stuff anymore. So our like instincts tell us to stay where we're comfortable, because if we're uncomfortable, we're potentially like in the danger zone. Like you're not with your people, you're not with your tribe, you're on your own type thing. That's dangerous. You don't know where like whatever kind of predators back then were hunting. Like, yeah, obviously it's a much different age now. In the past 100 years, things have changed dramatically, which is only like a tiny, tiny fraction of our human. Yeah, there you go. That's so our human existence. Like what we're living in today is just a tiny, tiny bit of the entire human existence. So we're not used to being totally like relatively safe. So now, like our body tells us not to get out of the comfort zone, but since we're in such a different world, like that's where we grow the most and learn the most. Does that make sense?
Yeah, so let's talk about some of the things that we've done that has gone outside our comfort zone that has changed us for the better.
Starting a business. Yeah. It's kind of scary stuff, you know. Kind of giving up the security of a 9-to-5, like real job to, be responsible for yourself and all that stuff.
I guess I'll cut you off there and say that you say the real job. I would say that this is a real job. We work.
I just meant in conventional terms. Yeah.
Right.
Like
but
a stable.
I mean, it's pretty stable. But yeah, the scariness of, there's no one to fall back on. Like if you have a job, 9-to-5 job, or a job where you work for a corporate entity, you kind of rely on them to just pay you and, okay, the job's always there. But to be honest, how many companies close down? I mean, just saw the other day, Boston store and Carson Perry Scott's closing down. I saw them going out of business. I heard a radio ad for that. Toys R Us is going out of business. All these big companies have been around for a long time are going out.
And maybe because they, as a company, didn't go out of their comfort zone and they didn't keep up with the times. Right. Yeah. Yeah, they stuck to what they knew, and they're like, oh, we got this. It's always worked for us. Just because this is one of the things I hate the most is in my old life. Anytime I had a question about how something was done when it wasn't working, that's just how we've always done it. And I'm like, well, that doesn't make any sense. It's not relevant anymore. So probably the biggest thing that got me out of my comfort zone, I don't know. There's a lot of things I just do. So I don't have a lot of fears about that stuff. Oddly enough, totally different. When I met Dave, I didn't really like swimsuits. I didn't wear shorts. I didn't like to take my shirt off, like when I went swimming, like none of that stuff, because I was really body conscious. And one of the first major trips we took was to Mexico, and he was like, we don't even know anybody here. Like, you're beautiful, blah, blah, blah. He's like, if you're going to do it now, because these aren't people you know. It wasn't great. I still wore boy shorts, like swim trunks. But I started getting a little bit more comfortable with my body, getting outside of my comfort zone, realizing that, everybody was there, different body types. So I think that would be my major one.
I think that's a fear for a lot of people.
Yeah, absolutely. Starting CrossFit, I did the same thing. I was like, I'm hot. Everybody else is taking their shirt off. All the other girls, I can do it too. Nobody cares. So So what are some other things of getting outside of our comfort zone that we can talk about with our members to try and help them with some of their stuff?
I think the biggest thing would be kind of relates to the competition that we were at yesterday is actually putting everything you're doing in the gym to the test and actually see how you perform when it's actually meaningful and for something.
So I wanted to share my story, and I don't know, like we talk about, oh, it made you grow as a person. I don't know how this will make me grow yet because it was just yesterday. But
Need more time to reflect.
yeah, so I'll have to figure out that. But I do have a feeling of accomplishment, even though. So I did yesterday's competition. It was called
Cooler near the lake Plash.
Thank you. I always forget it. Up at Bruce City. So we had, 14 people compete yesterday, and they had that. To be honest, it was probably one of the hardest RX competitions I've ever seen come out. The weights were super heavy. It was challenging. I haven't seen a competition that challenging in a long time, and Jason probably can maybe attest to that. He goes to a lot of them. I thought the weights were crazy. It was still fun. So going into it, I know that a lot of people saw the weights, saw the standards, and they went down to intermediate.
Or didn't sign up.
And when you really looked at it, I mean, what they were doing was they made like intermediate was like what is typically considered RX, and then RX was like RX plus.
Originally, I was going to do it, and my thought going into it was I was going to do intermediate. That's what everybody was doing because they were talking about the weights. Corin was the one who signed us up, and I didn't realize that I was RX till later.
That's because you were so late to sign up, and I was frustrated, and I was like, hey, we're going to do this before it fills up, and I'm just going to sign you up.
Right, so she signs me up RX. Freaked out a little bit, and at first I was like, it is what it is, whatever, I'm not going to worry about it. And then doubt obviously starts setting in my mind. Start freaking out a little bit because the WODs are starting to get released. I'm seeing these weights. I'm like, shoot, this is gonna suck. So obviously I'm starting to get the mental game. And then I started hearing other people in the gym just making comments. And I know they didn't mean it out of anything, just poking fun. But everybody's like, oh, Dave RX. And then giving you the look like, well, good luck kind of thing, And I've started kind of doubting myself. And then two things. I almost dropped out because I really hurt my back previously because we're getting the gym ready. And a week prior to the competition, of course, we're moving 108-pound stall mats, 275 of them into the new gym, and I tweaked my back. Wasn't healing. I was a little worried about that because I knew the weights were going to be heavy. So I almost thought about maybe dropping out or giving it to somebody else, and I actually did contact the gym saying, hey, I do have an injury, can I give my spot to somebody else? And they did say I could. So I was looking at that, and then 2 days before, so this would have been Thursday, I was up at the new gym, and I started just freaking out. There's no way I'm going to do this workout. These WODs are terrible. And then I was doing a once over at the gym, and I came across our quote on the wall. I saw it, and it said, be stronger than your strongest excuse. And that, I stared at it for 10 seconds, and I realized this is myself telling me, I'm making excuses right now. I want to get out of my comfort zone. One of my goals for this year was to lift heavy weights and to stop doubting myself. And then I said, screw it. I'm going to do this competition. I don't care. And I'm going to show other people who were kind of poking fun at me that I was doing the heavy weights in RX that I can do this. I'm going to show myself because I'm going to feel more accomplished after that I did it. And I knew I was going to be last place. I knew it. I mean, I saw those weights and I was like, man, that's going to be tough. I knew some of the people going into this competition were regional or athletes or people who are really high up in the region. And I'm like, well, I'm just going to do the best I can. I may be last, but hey, I'm going to get out of my comfort zone. I'm going to beat my strongest excuse, and I'm going to feel accomplished for doing it at the end.
To be honest, one of your things too is you're not a big fan of doing individual comps anyway. So that even to just do an individual comp got you out of your comfort zone. Because normally if you do it, it's like a team or partner. You just like to go cheer people on. So, I was just proud that you were going to do it. I didn't care, what you got or anything. Right.
And that was, again, too, yeah. I wanted to get out of my comfort zone. That was part of it. I was freaking out. But I'm like, I'm going to grow from this. When I'm done with it, I'm going to feel good to myself that I actually did it. And I mean, yeah, the weights were heavy. My back did start bothering me in the middle of the work, I think the second one, really bad, but I kept pushing, and I feel good today.
Yeah.
My legs are good. But now I'm like, all right, well, that one's done. Now on to the next one. And now when I approach the next one.
Well, let me ask, how did you feel when it was over with? Like, what was I gotta imagine you must have like felt really accomplished, that like you got through it and you didn't die.
Yeah, that's how it was. I got through it, and then it was like, all right, I did it. And kind of looking to the next one, like, okay, what's the next one that I can do now? Because, I got out of that comfort zone. I faced the fear, I guess you could say. And now I'm like, okay, I got out of that one okay. Nothing bad happened. And, mindset thing now, I'm like, well, next one.
Built a little confidence.
Yeah.
I think that transitions really well into the next point we have is that, and this is in the gym, outside the gym, work, whatever you are like most afraid of, like whatever, for me, like I have, listening to this podcast is important to me because I want to make sure we're getting better and learning from the mistakes we're making and improving. Every time like I go to play it, like I just tell myself, I don't really want to listen, like do I have to? And so I can see I'm like telling myself not to because I'm a little bit afraid. I don't like listening to myself talk. And that is like the exact thing I'm talking about. Whatever that thing that you're afraid of, that's exactly what you have to do now to improve and step out of that comfort zone.
Yeah. You absolutely don't have to love it, but you can learn from it. One of the things coming up is my dad does this group called Toastmasters, and it's just a group of people that get together and they do speeches. They can prepare for them. Sometimes they do with a script or without a script. They do like impromptu things where they just sit around a table and they ask each other topics, and they have like 3 minutes of like rapid fire. I've kind of made fun of my dad for this, and I feel really bad, but he's doing what he can to further his career, which is great. And I'm like, I don't need that. And then I'm like, oh shoot, I probably do. I'm just scared of it. I don't want to talk. As much as we talk in front of people and we do our classes and everything else, I mean, it was scary at first, but I got over it, and now it doesn't bother me. For whatever reason, this bothers me because it's people I don't know from all different professions, all different ages. Like, even though I forget that I'm 32, I still feel like I'm only 20, and I'm like really nervous to go in front of all these people, and they're just going to be like, oh, she's so inexperienced and she's so young and blah blah blah. But really, I'm not. And it's just, again, me making excuses. So that's where I'm trying to get out of my comfort zone and when it comes to my speaking and everything.
So something I learned too, and I learned this through meditating this past week too, was the fear that you're thinking in your mind is yourself just telling yourself stories.
Yep.
Because it's your mind trying to protect you. So it's coming up with ideas or this is how it's going to go. But that's actually just noise that's going to either prevent you from competing or, in your case, speaking because you're so nervous because you've told yourself all these stories. But one of the things that I learned in the meditation practice was find something you can center on that distracts you from those stories and like tell yourself that's just chatter in my brain and just try to turn it off. Mm-hmm. So one of the practices was find something that gives you comfort and just focus on that. And I found it when I saw the quote on the wall. Mm-hmm. And in the way that it, when you first walk in, everybody will see it when they get the new building. But that big quote, that's why we have it. Mm-hmm. So, and that was...
If you're watching, it's right behind you.
It's on the wall here in Kenosha as well. But that was kind of the thing that I held on to, going into the competition. I wasn't so nervous when I got there. And I felt that, I did meditate that morning and I was concentrating on that, be stronger than your strongest excuse. Yeah. And that's, and I just tried not to sit there and go over in my head how I felt each event was going to go. I just was like, whatever, it's going to go how it is. And
I just try to tell myself, like, you've done all these things in your life. Like you said, you're just telling yourself stories. has those stories ever come true? Like, in some cases, things do happen. I wasn't feeling good yesterday. I almost puked in front of everybody, which would have really sucked. But 90% of the time, those stories that we tell ourselves in our head, once we do the thing, like you said, it never comes close to that, and that doesn't actually happen. So I'm like, okay, I've got a pretty good percentage here that whatever I'm making up is far worse than what'll actually go down. And that, I guess, is my comfort, is that my crazy overactive imagination generally isn't right.
I don't think it's anybody. Jason, how many times have you told yourself, well, that wasn't as bad as I thought?
Even like in the gym when you're doing a workout, like, it's towards the end and it's time for you to really dig deep and push it, and you're like, oh, I can't go any harder. Like, oh, what if I die? Like, I'm going so hard already. It's right. It's not going to happen. You can always push a little bit harder for however, a minute, 2 minutes, whatever it is. You always dig deeper, and you're going to be just fine afterwards.
I think one of my favorite videos, and I've really started to enjoy listening to his videos and follow him, is Will Smith. And I know I've posted this in the group before, and I think someone else posted it and got my attention to it. But he talks about fear. And he talks about like everything leading up. So Dave, like leading up to that competition, you were so afraid of what was going to happen, and you were stressing out in your mind, and you were telling yourself stories about like the weights being heavy. Like, what did you think was going to happen? It was going to fall and break your arm, or that you weren't going to lift it and everybody was going to laugh at you, right? Like all these weird stories. So you're fearful leading up to it. But in the moment, how did you feel? In the moment when that could have happened, what was going through your mind? Nothing. You were just doing the workout, and you were enjoying, as much as we could enjoy the workout, we were enjoying it. So like his concept is that leading up to it, when nothing bad can happen, is when we're most fearful. And he equates that to skydiving. Leading up to skydiving, you're so afraid of jumping out that plane. But once you got into the workout, or once you jump out of the plane, it's the most relaxing, freeing, and enjoying thing you've ever done. At the moment that real thing could be going on. So his concept is like everything in life that makes you happy is on the other side of our fear. Once we get past that threshold. Because again, in those workouts, you had a good time. Once they were over, you felt accomplished and you felt good about yourself. So like that was one of the most eye-opening things. Like you'll never enjoy things as much if we don't push past that fear and that threshold of getting out of our comfort zone.
And that goes back to Jason's point, sorry. But when you're afraid of it in the gym, where you see a WOD and you're like, oof, I don't want to do that. Or I remember that last time that hurt so bad. Like, those are the times that you need to face your fears. You know, it's like if you're deathly afraid of spiders or snakes. What do they do to get you over those fears? Actually, they may not put it on you the first time, but you have to face your fear. And then you're like, oh, it didn't bite me, or it didn't do this. It didn't go what my mind was telling me, what I'm so afraid of. Just the same thing with the WOD. Like, you go through a WOD sometimes and they're terrible. And then the next time you do it, you're like, it wasn't as bad as the first time I did it, because you're getting fitter, stronger, faster, better every day because you're training. So like you need to face those fears. So if you're one of those people that hates running, one of those people that hates burpees, and you avoid the gym because of those movements, those are the times you need to actually get in the gym and face it, because you get better at them.
So why do you guys think people are afraid to get out of their comfort zone? Kind of leads into our last point here.
They're just afraid it's going to hurt. They're afraid that, I hear this all the time, especially when it's the gym or going out for a run. People are like, they're going to laugh at me. I'm not going to be able to keep up with them. I just had someone doing this the other day because she was modifying. She said she felt like she had to do more reps because she was like, well, that's not fair to everybody else who are doing the full reps. I'm like, you have an injury and are doing what you can do. Like, that's all that matters. We're so worried about everybody else, and that just makes us very fearful.
I think it kind of, and this is just a little tangent off of what you just said, but just failing in general. When people don't want to fail at stuff. Yeah. When you look back at the example I gave about like the tribe setting, if you're like an outcast or you fail, you're like labeled as a failure, that is when the tribe kind of doesn't want to include you anymore, and you're like left on your own and more likely to die, obviously.
Yeah, because they only want the fittest and best. So.
Right. So when you look back at like our instincts, like our subconscious is telling us to avoid those things, but again, we don't have those problems today. So, like it's no one's gonna be upset if you are last or you do try something and fail. Like one of my favorite quotes now is "Hurry up and fail." Like the sooner you can break or reach your failure point, the faster you're gonna learn why and add it to your knowledge, your tank of experiences. You can apply it going forward. So next time you're in that situation, you're gonna know what to do. So like search for failure, try to get to it quicker because it's just gonna make you a better person.
I mean, even as kids, like if we gave up the moment we fell down trying to learn how to walk, we'd all be scooting around on our hands and knees right now. Like why? Like little kids have no fear of failing. They just go out and they do things. It's kind of like we almost ingrain it in ourselves as we get older.
Well, I think the school system, I mean, this is a different topic that I don't want to get into, but the school system is predicated on passing or failing.
And we're ranked against everybody else. We must have been listening to the same podcast or something, because I was just listening to something about that in like schools. No, it was in my book that I'm almost done with that you can have. 7 Habits.
It just makes sense, and I think, I'm sure a lot of people talk about it.
Yeah, one quote that sticks out to me is fail and fail often. You know, if you're not failing, you can't learn from those mistakes that we talk about. That's how you learn. Okay, how do you reapproach that situation?
I used to be super afraid of failing in anything. Like the thought of like not passing a grade or not passing a class or like not like deathly, like terrifying.
I think I used to be that way when it came to my food and my nutrition. I didn't cook because I was like, I don't know how. And then I'm just going to ruin it. And then I have this food that I paid for that I'm not going to eat. And I ruin stuff all the time, especially when I bake now, because I'm always like trying to make them dairy-free or gluten-free. And there's not always a lot of recipes that I agree with. So I'm always like kind of messing with them and just, Dave always laughs at me because I just kind of eyeball stuff. And then I'm like, oh, that didn't work. And then I'll find a recipe that did after like 10 failures. And then I forget to write down the recipe. And then I'm like, oh yeah, what did I do last time? Why didn't this turn out the same? So I fail all the time with my cooking. I'm like, oh, scratch that. That wasn't very good.
But still, that's part of like learning.
I love doing it now.
You're not just routinely in the kitchen doing it, you're experimenting, pushing your knowledge.
I tell people when it comes to your nutrition to get out of your comfort zone, because everybody's like, oh, I know what I like and I know what I don't like. First of all, stop saying that you don't like something. You probably just didn't have it in a way that was tasteful. So try looking up different recipes. Second of all, anytime that you go to a farmer's market or anytime you go to the store, search out and seek an item that you've never tried before. Buy it, fresh food generally, and then look for a recipe on how to make that. I have found some amazing stuff in like rutabaga, bok choy. What are some other weird things that we do? Like beet greens and Swiss chard and all that stuff that I would have, again, if I didn't go out of my comfort zone, I would have never tried that stuff. And now like I said, I really enjoy cooking. I really enjoy like messing with flavors and all that stuff.
So in summary, fail and fail often. Get out of your comfort zones. Your mind is basically telling you stories, and you need to face those fears. We all kind of gave examples of that and how we've learned from that, as human beings, and we think it makes you better as a person. And then you can translate that into the gym with a lot of the movements. If you're avoiding those, I see a lot of people fearful of going upside down in handstands and running. Those are like the biggest things that I see. But those people, like the people who do get the handstands, are the people who like post later, I did a handstand today. And that's kind of one of the most like rewarding as a coach when you see them later celebrating those victories.
Yeah, I mean, whatever you're super afraid of, once you figure that out and accomplish it, it's going to be way more rewarding rather than if you weren't afraid of it and just did it. You'd be like, oh, okay, I did that now. But if it was a super big, comfort thing for you and you busted through it, you're going to be super proud of yourself.
And I think that's why I love CrossFit, because a lot of the things we do, it pushes us out of our comfort zone, and it makes you a better person. See so many people their mentality changes. They're more courageous. They're more, they believe in themselves more because they're doing work that maybe they didn't think they could do. They're lifting those heavy weights, and I love that about CrossFit, because then you see the people, that's why we get rid of the word can't, because they were trying to change their mindset, and they go out of the gym and you just see them all of a sudden just be a better person.
I think that's why CrossFit gets called a cult, because if that happens, people realize they just level up their mindset. They think deeper, they want to do better, they want to be a better human. And then people try to explain that to people who haven't been in here, and they're still kind of stuck wherever they were, and they're like, oh, you guys are weird. And then that brings people back here, and they want to be with the like-minded people who feel push them.
And I try tangent. People tell me all the time when I deal with them, when I'm trying to help them with their nutrition, they're like, oh, I'm going out to dinner or I'm going to a family party. I don't want to be that person that has to bring their food. And because they're, again, fearful of what other people are going to say. But the reason that other people are knocking you for doing CrossFit or eating healthy or trying to run or lose weight or get into shape, whatever that is because it's their fear that they're going to fail. So you succeeding makes them feel bad and makes them reevaluate their life and where they're at. So don't let their fear change what you want for yourself. They'll get there and you're gonna inspire a ton of people without even knowing it. Maybe bringing that food or making that healthier choices is gonna make someone else do it. My group right now, they have to post for the nutrition challenge. They have to post every day to get a point, a healthy meal that's compliant. And they have to hashtag spring shape up. And I get to watch all the comments of people on their photo that aren't at our gym and, oh, that looks really good. Can you give me the right? So now we're encouraging other people very safely, hey, here's some other things that you can try. And there's a couple people that have been rude and said some mean things. And then people are just firing back this is my life. This is what I'm trying to do for myself. So don't let other people knock you down, and maybe you can encourage them to, again, kind of level up that mindset. So, done with tangent.
Yeah. So again, it relates back to CrossFit too. That was from your tangent, Corian, was from Jen Sincero's book, I believe. You're a Badass. I remember reading that. Just again, people's negative comments are their own insecurities, and if they can knock you down and bring you back to their level, then they feel okay, I'm doing something right. They don't want to see you succeed because they know they're failing, even though it's subconscious. They just see something, but it's a subconscious thing.
If we could just only as a culture just keep cultivating, empowering each other to do better things. But again, it goes back to the school system, it goes back to corporate jobs, and it goes back to all this stuff of, you're not going to get the promotion if everybody's doing good.
So if you're listening to our podcast and you've never come in and tried CrossFit, when I meet with people, that's a fear. I try to reward them or tell them, hey, the first thing give yourself a pat on the back. You came in to do your consultation. That's a reward. You just, boom, you got past that first fear. Because walking through that door, you don't know what to expect. You just see people who are fit. They can swing from the rings. They can do all these pull-ups. I'm not fit. You start telling yourself, and then you come in. You meet that consultation, maybe you sign up, and then they go through that first class, and then they come back for their second one. And it's, again, they're so fearful about getting into class because people are going to laugh at me, or I'm going to fail. What if everybody thinks I'm weird, or I'm the last one? But then you get into it, and you're like, honestly, no one really cares. We're all a team. We're family here. And you get a high five at the end. Well,
Yeah, the only thing people care about is if you're being safe and having a good time.
Don't let other people's fear change your life. Don't let your own fear hold you back. So I think that was a good podcast. Get out of your comfort zone, guys.
That's fun. All right, guys.
We done?
Catch you later.
Episode 12 is coming at you next.
Happy Mother's Day.
Happy Mother's Day,
everybody. Stay classy, Harbor Park.
Thanks for listening to Anchored at Harbor Park CrossFit. If you would like further information about our programs, visit www.harborparkcrossfit.com. We hope you'll tune in next time.